Dear friends, the topic of my speech is art and time. The history of art has much to tell. We know about works of art from the Magdalenian period, about 30,000 years ago, onwards, thousands and thousands of years. It is much thanks to art and thanks to artists that the history of mankind is known. But if works of art tell us much about the life, habits, thoughts, and beliefs of ancient civilizations, they rarely tell us something about time itself. Time. Is there a metaphysical problem more difficult to approach than time? We could identify ourselves with Saint Augustine when he answered the question, "What is time?" He said, "If nobody asks me, I know. But when it comes to explain what it is, I do not know anymore." I will limit myself to some few works of art directly or indirectly related to time, works that have interested me in one way or another. And the examples, they have the limitation that they are all referring to the visual arts, not music, unfortunately. No artist, I would say, has been more dedicated and obsessed by the theme of time than Roman Opalka, an artist and a painter of Polish background who was born in 1931. One day in 1965, he decided to start on a special project, to paint numbers, starting with number 1, and then going on until his death, or Kronos, ended the project in 2011. In the beginning, he painted the numbers with white color on black canvases, always of the same size. After some years, he began to add 1% of white in the preparation of his canvases. These were painted white on white background, hardly visible. And to each painting belongs a cassette containing a recording of his voice, saying the numbers slowly, very slowly, in Polish, as he was painting them. And also a photograph of his face taken after each day's work. In a statement, Opalka has said that he wanted to create a work which was a picture of life, a meditation of the unceasing change, the march of time, of one ever-shifting reality. And you might be asking yourselves, how many numbers did he paint? Well, he arrived at the number, in English, 56,072,249. And if you make an addition of these numbers, you will arrive at the symbolic number 33. The last years, as I said, his paintings were white. This is from the middle period, I think. And the photos, they show an aged man with white hair. So, probably no other artist has ever spent more time to time. And probably nobody in history has spent more time thinking about time or been more absorbed by the concept of time. 46 years of painting numbers. We could perhaps associate with him with the Stilids, the pillar saints, who went into the desert to be alone with God. Or one could say that he voluntarily invited Kronos, or Saturn, the god who ate his own children, the most terrifying god in the ancient Greek pandemonium, to accompany him in the studio and to let himself be devoured bit by bit. And this is a painting by Goya made in 1826, showing Saturn eating his son. Every morning, children will leave their homes to go out and play. They leave without fear. The worst material conditions are excellent. And yesterday does not exist, and they will never go to sleep. Because children, they live in the present, unaware of the dangers and threats hiding in the depths of arcades or waiting around the corner. Notice the shadow there to the right. This is the world of the Italian painter Giorgio de Chirico, between the years 1911 till 1919. The atmosphere is usually an afternoon in October, when the shadows are getting longer because the sun is lower. A special atmosphere that one can perhaps experience in certain cities in the Mediterranean countries, such as Ferrara or Torino or Volos, which was de Chirico's native town, the city of the Argonauts in the Greek mythology. In contrast to the modernist tendencies reigning in Paris in the beginning of the 20th century, represented by painters such as Matisse and Picasso, and also in contrast to artists such as Kandinsky, Malevich, or Mondrian, who, influenced by Theosophy and Rudolf Steiner, developed abstraction in art, and also, in contrast to his colleagues in Italy, the Futurists, with their cult of speed and modern technology, this painter, Giorgio de Chirico, seeked his own way, which he was to label metaphysic. He was nourished by the reading of philosophers and thinkers like Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, and Otto Weininger, and of course of Sigmund Freud. De Chirico explored in his own way the atmosphere of a society, our civilization, on the threshold of a new age, the age of industrialization. So in his paintings we can see a sculpture of Ariadne, abandoned by her lover. How this image is combined then with a railway station, a train, or with a factory chimney. Perhaps not in this picture, but very often there are big factory chimneys in brick. De Chirico's paintings are impregnated with melancholy and a sense of loss. There is a mood of nostalgia, which is not directed towards anything existing. As the surrealist poet André Breton expressed this emotion of metaphysical homesickness. Where is this far-away country which seems to draw all its light from my life? Où est donc ce pays lointain qui semble tirer de ma vie toute sa lumière? C'est beau, ça. De Chirico has often been compared with an American painter, Edward Hopper. The paintings of Hopper are also imbued with a metaphysical atmosphere, but with Hopper, we are in America, the new world. There are frozen moments of contemporary human life in cheap hotel rooms, offices, gas stations at dusk, night bars, scenes from ordinary contemporary living, which often have a very enigmatic atmosphere. But there is no link to a historical past. There is not the profound sense of nostalgia that we find in De Chirico's works. Hopper's titles are often very precise, indicating precise places and moments in time, even the exact hour. So the title of this painting is Early Summer Morning. And this is a famous painting called Nighthawks. Where I grew up in the north of Sweden in the 40s and 50s, I think paintings such as these influenced us very much because I think we were more or less half Americans in that time. America represented what we desired in life, I think, the American life. Generally, there is a great difference between much of the Western art after the Renaissance and Oriental art. Our Western tradition represents moments in time, specific situations, arrested actions, when Oriental and sacred art deals with the timeless, a continuous condition. A representation of a famous motive like Shiva dancing, for instance, does not show something that occurred on a specific occasion. Shiva is always dancing. And it's about the same with the representations of Christ in many Byzantine churches. Christ as the Pantocrator. Christ is always the Pantocrator, the beginning and the end, Alpha and Omega. De Chirico, to return, his great metaphysical period, they continued until around 1919. Then he suddenly changed his orientation after a visit in Villa Borghese in Rome. There, before an allegoric painting by Titian, he experiences a revelation, after which he declares himself a classical painter. And the title of this painting is Amor Sacro e Amor Profano. Titian, like many artists in the Renaissance period, like Raphael, was a very learned person. And besides portraits, he painted large allegoric and mythological scenes. But there is in his production one very emblematic work which he executes very late in his life, which is about time. It represents a three-headed portrait of himself as an old man, profile to the left, a portrait of a middle-aged man in the center, his son, and the profile of a relative, a young man with the profile to the right. The painting carries a Latin motto, and I don't think it is possible to read the motto on top of the painting. Well, to the left is written in Latin, ex praeterito. In the center, presens prudenter agit. And to the left, to the right, ni futura actione deturbat, which in translation would mean, from the experience of the past, the present acts prudently, lest it spoil future action. The three phases typifying the three stages of human life, youth, maturity, and old age, are meant to symbolize the three forms of time in general, past, present, and future. We are further asked to connect these three modes with the idea of prudence, prudenza, a cardinal virtue consisting of memory, which judges of and acts in the present, which remembers and learns from the past, intelligence, which judges and acts in the present, and foresight, which anticipates and provides for the future. Prudence, then, according to Aristotle, is the basis of a wise and happy life. Prudence. The idea of painting the three animal heads goes back to the Hellenistic Egyptian mysteries connected with the god Serapis, who was represented accompanied by a three-headed beast consisting of a lion, a wolf, and a dog, sometimes also with a serpent tending to devour its own tail, a traditional symbol of time. The lion's head denotes the present, the condition of which between the past and the future is strong and fervent. The past is designated by the wolf because the memory of things that belong to the past is devoured and carried away. And the image of the dog signifies the outcome of the future, of which hope always gives us a pleasing picture. Among the letters of personal instructions that the Tibetan master has given to a group of disciples, there are some letters addressed to a disciple with the initials DAO. It is, I think, regrettable that the name and work of this disciple, apparently an artist, is not known. The main problem of this disciple is the problem of time. I think I have the same problem. DK urges him to organize his time better so that he might get out of each day its full quota of inspiration, mental work, and physical playing activity. He is further advised to develop a time consciousness which will not limit, but which will serve to conserve and organize time, the gift of days, hours, and minutes, those priceless gifts. Even a minute is a priceless gift. In the general instructions to the group of disciples, there is a passage which I think has a connection with the keynote of this year's conference about telepathic interplay, about the stage when a disciple who becomes able to share in the constant, unremitting meditation of the ashram. It is about the stage of becoming a disciple who shall no more go out. A disciple who shall no more go out. Isn't it about the stage when one's consciousness is steadily upholding a link with the soul, although one might be active in the outer common world? A stage when the future and the past is no longer crowding out the pure present. Sometimes having a sudden experience of beauty, and such experiences are always unpredictable and sudden. I am reminded about this phrase, a disciple who shall no more go out. We should have beauty, perhaps, as a theme once. Beauty. It's a category disappearing from the aesthetic discussion of today. I rarely have this experience seeing pictures, although there is a multitude of pictures, paintings, to serve as a support for contemplation. More often, visiting certain buildings with a central dome or a lantern letting in the light, buildings such as the Pantheon, or maybe St. Paul's here in London, cathedrals in France, and above all, the mosques in the Muslim countries, because they are devoid of furniture and paraphernalia. These are moments to discover that the axis of the universe is not an exterior position, but that you yourself is part of it. But then, these buildings were initially conceived by master builders who certainly knew about the spiritual constitution of man. Well, this is, however, not a proper moment to talk about building traditions and bring up the Masonic symbolism and the Masonic traditions, but there is very much to investigate there. What I mean to say here is that certain forms of architecture, more than other forms of visual arts, give us moments when the river of time makes a halt. And I would like to include here also the primitive shelters of nomadic peoples, who have the same principles in their dwellings. And now, let me finish with some words by Fridtjof Schuon, a Swiss-French religious philosopher who really began as an artist, who became a sheikh, a spiritual teacher in Morocco when he was only 27 years old, who wrote many books on religion and esotericism, and who at the end of his life took up painting again and was adopted by an Indian tribe in Wyoming. This remarkable man and teacher has this to say about two moments in life. There are two moments in life which are everything. It is the present moment, when we are free to choose what we want to be. And it is the moment of death, when there is no choice anymore, and when the decision is God's. Between the present moment and death is the rest of our lives, stretching from the present moment to the last moment, a succession of present moments, because we always live right now. It is therefore, to speak concretely and operatively, always the same blessed moment where we are free to remember God and to find our happiness in this remembering. Thank you.
You've disappeared. Does anybody have a comment or a question for Anders? Yes. Just somebody behind you. Just hold on a sec. Wait for this person here. Yes.
Sorry, just here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Who was this interesting French painter and philosopher?
Fridtjof Schuon.
Schuon?
Spell it.
It's a German, I think his parents were fond of a Norwegian explorer, Fridtjof Nansen, and baptized his son, Fridtjof. It's a very old Nordic name.
Okay.
Schuon, that is more German, or
Okay.
Swiss German.
Thank you.
Schhuon, Fridtjof Schuon.
Any other comments? Observations? Yes?
Sorry, what you were saying about architecture, how it gives you those particular timeless moments. It made me think of the architect Christopher Alexander. Have you heard of him?
I have.
Alexander.
Can you please repeat?
Christopher Alexander.
Do you know if
I'm not familiar with that name, no.
Okay. Well, he created a number of he's written a number of books about the timeless way of building, and also he focuses a lot upon the notion of objects having soul, into which time has been put, as it were. One of the examples he gives is of the Japanese art of lacquering tiles. So I just it just occurred to me that it's connected with what you were saying.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, I forgot to show you the last picture. This is a dome in a mosque in Tata in India. It's a marvelous work.
Wow.
A brick building.
I notice, I think, that all the shadows are coming from a slightly different position of the sun, as though he is trying to express the present, the past, and the future. That's what I had to say, but I thought it was very interesting. I never saw that in another artist.
It's a very good remark. And also the perspective is always erroneous, but very correct.
A bit like your genius. Anybody else? Somebody over there? No? Yes, here. Alex.
Yes, the last quote about the two choices and the present moment being a succession of time being a succession of present moments. Could you say where that was from? Where was your final quote?
It is from this writer, Fritjof Schuon.
Okay.
He has written about 30, 40 books, and it is one of them. I have mislaid the reference, I'm sorry.
No,
but
that's good.
Why not start exploring?
Yes. in the moment, thank you.
Thank you very much, Anders.
Thank you.
It was wonderful. Thank you.